Hello, nerds! Thank you for watching Generally Nerdy. This is your Week in Nerdom Music Edition for the week of January 22nd, 2018. And this week in music news, there's so much going on. We've got some Smashing Pumpkins rumors. We've got Rush is calling it quits, apparently. The Residents are coming out with some reissues and more newness than you can shake a stick at. But first...
Quiet on the set, rolling.
Hi, I am Bitsy Telek.
Hey, I'm Hale Appleman.
I'm Walter Kane.
I'm Rene Aubergenois. Odo on Deep Space Nine.
Michael Dorn, Lieutenant Commander Worf, Star Trek The Next Generation.
Come and see me and hear me and talk to me and listen to me talk about myself.
Hey man, this is Kevin Smith, often considered generally nerdy, and you are listening to what is often considered generally nerdy.
On Generally Nerdy.
You're listening to
Generally Nerdy.
Generally Nerdy.
Generally Nerdy.
I realize this is a nerd news channel. This is a nerd news show. This is, or if you're listening to this on audio, it's a nerd news podcast. You know, all of those things. It has to do with nerd news. So when we talk music, sometimes I feel like I'm doing a disservice because there aren't very many, let's say, specifically nerdy bands. Specifically nerdy bands that are still relevant. A lot of the bands that you associate, quote-unquote, with being a nerd are relatively old. So when something comes up, I jump all over it. And Rush just came up. Man, I wish it was better news, though. Alex Lifeson, guitar player from Rush, says that they're done. Says there are no plans for them to tour, no plans for them to write new music at all, and very likely will not be ever again. After 41 years, this is a relatively close quote, so yeah, it's not going to be perfect, but it's close. He specifically saying that after 41 years, we felt like it was enough. This probably has a lot to do with Neil Peart's, or Peart, however you're supposed to say his name now. I've always said Pert, and then a couple years ago somebody said, actually it's Peart. But whatever. He has constant tendonitis, and almost because of it, almost didn't go on tour for the Clockwork record back in 2015. So yeah, very, very sad news, man. And both Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee have said, if there's no Neil, there's no band. If all three of us can't make this music, then there's no reason for us to continue making this music. So I feel like an era has ended, man, because Rush has been like nerd go-to since their inception in the 70s. That's been 41 years is what he said. That's incredible. Anyway, that's sad. A moment of silence for the loss of Rush. And we're moving on. Another moment of silence. Good Lord, this is just... I'm opening up with all the bad stuff. Dolores O'Riordan. If you don't know that name, then you're probably not an older millennial or Gen Xer. Dolores or you just are not super tuned into the music era of that approximate time frame. But Dolores O'Riordan was the lead singer for the band The Cranberries. This past week, she passed away. 46, the coroner in Ireland, England, wherever she passed, said that they very likely won't know the cause of her death until approximately April. So we're just kind of left. I mean, the Cranberries were supposed to come here to Colorado just a few months ago, and they had to cancel. I think they canceled a few dates because she was having back problems, back pains, I think was the official statement. And so yeah, I don't know if it's related or what the story is, but we will find out hopefully by April. Super, super sad. I really, really like the Cranberries. So yeah, another moment of silence there, man. In related news to the Dolores O'Riordan, the band Bad Wolves, which I guess is relatively nerdy because Bad Wolf is a Doctor Who reference, so it's a band of bad wolves, right? Doctor Who-y. They did a cover of arguably the Cranberries' biggest hit, Zombie. I mean, Cranberries had a few really big hits, but my favorite of them, at least, is Zombie. The band Bad Wolves released it. I'll do a link to the video, the audio video, in the description. She was apparently supposed to do guest vocals on this track, but she passed, so she couldn't, and that sucks. Their version of the song's decent. I feel like the vocals were missing her. To be 100% honest, that's probably the biggest noticeable downfall of this song, is that the vocalist, it sounds like, planned his vocals around having somebody else sing with him. So aside from that, it's pretty solid. You'll never get better than the original version, though, so definitely check out that original. I'll put a link to that in the description too. Very interesting, also related to this, their streams, the Cranberries streaming on across, I think it was actually specifically on Spotify, gave the numbers. Their streams increased almost 3,000% since she has passed. So, and there's been people who have started funds for her kids, because she's young, she has kids. 46 is not that old, but yeah, just a bad day in music, man. But we do have to continue on, and that continuing on is talking about Between the Buried and Me. Their new record, Automata, something, is coming out March 9th on Sumerian Records. Sorry, first day with the new lips. That is not necessarily news because that's been announced, but this week they released their first single called Condemned to the Gallows. These guys are prog metal. Prog metal's probably best kept secret because they're not super huge like Mastodon or other prog metal bands, but they are super good. I'm not the biggest fan of their vocalist either, but that's not to say that he's not good. He's just probably the weak link of the band, and when you're in a band full of fantastic musicians, that's really not saying all that much. I'm super big fan of Between the Buried and Me. Check out this new record. It's decidedly, at least to my ears, decidedly less heavy than stuff that they've done before, but still good and proggy, good and long and parts and things. So yeah, that's fantastic. Link in the description. Moving on, though, we got a little bit of a rumor leak thing with the Smashing Pumpkins. Billy Corgan and his drummer... Oh, please tell me, yeah, that's the only name I didn't freaking write down, was the drummer's name. Whatever. They're in the studio recording new music together. Corgan just put out a solo record not that long ago. But the two of them being in the studio together, James Iha, their guitar player, yes, guitar player for the Pumpkins, he was guitar with Billy. Somebody snapped a picture of the three of them in the studio together, so that's kind of sparked up some rumors. And then if you take into consideration that Corgan and original Smashing Pumpkins bass player Darcy Retzky have recently mended fences since November, because oh no, that was Iha. Iha stepped on stage with them 3 times recently. But he's still, I mean, since the last time James Iha stepped on stage with what is now passing as the Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan and Darcy Retzky have mended their fences, and so now that they're all friendly again, maybe we're looking at an eventual reunion tour. That would be epic, because that's one of my bucket list bands to see live. Do you guys, do you think that this could really turn into a reunion? Or I read a quote from Billy Corgan who said, "I don't care if I ever play music with these guys again, I just want us all to be happy." So does that mean they're not shooting for a reunion, or is that just him playing it slow, being cool, and eventually we still might get it? So I'm leaving that one up to you guys. Let's talk about it. In other 90s dark music news, Marilyn Manson tweeted just a couple days ago, actually. This is a partial quote, as Johnny Depp is considering a position with the band. Johnny Depp has stepped on stage with Marilyn Manson a couple of times to do Sweet Dreams. I believe one of them was for like an award show, and then one of them was because they were in LA and Johnny Depp wasn't doing anything, and he and Manson are buddies, which we know from the Johnny Depp appearing in the Say 10 music video and the Kill For Me music video recently. They hang out and watch movies together and drink absinthe, I'm sure. But yeah, very interesting. I feel like Johnny Depp has also done Beautiful People with Manson on stage, so now he's considering coming in. Does that mean they're gonna start working on a new record together, or is that just gonna be a touring gig? Very interesting to comprehend. Next up, though, one of the coolest bits of information for this week's episode. We've got a lot of stuff going on in music. This is probably going to be one of our longest episodes this week. This next bit has to do with a band that most of you probably don't know. It's a band called The Residents. Les Claypool credits The Residents as an inspiration. A lot of really great musicians credit The Residents as inspiration. Residents are very avant-garde. You can't really, sometimes they're rock-ish, just really weird stuff, and kind of dark at times, and just very, very incredible artists, and pretty good musicians to boot. They announced recently that they're going to be reissuing their entire catalog. So 46 years worth of Residents music is going to get reissues. And the first of the reissues was last Friday, the 19th. So this past Friday, from when I'm filming this, they released Meet the Residents, which came out in 1974, and they also released Third Reich and Roll, which came out in 1976. And between those two reissues, we got 30 new, or bonus tracks, I guess. 3 new tracks, but 30, counting those 3, 30 bonus tracks of material. So there's a live performance, there's just a bunch, there's an EP that came with them. It's fantastic. Fan-freaking-tastic. Looks like they will be issuing a reissue of some kind every 3 months between now and however long that takes to release all of that music, and it's a lot of music, especially when you consider one of their albums has like 30 songs on it. It's called the Commercial Album, and each song is a commercial. Check it out. It's worth it. It's for nothing other than pure morbid curiosity. You should check it out and then fall in love with the Residents because they're awesome. There was more. Oh yeah. Also, not only are they giving us all of this reissue and bonus material, but they're working on 2, not 1, 2 new albums. They're working on a feature-length movie, and they're gearing up for a tour. So freaking great. I can't even say how epic this is. The tour is supposed to start in April. The movie they've been working on for a long time, so don't necessarily hold your breath for that, but maybe it'll see the light of day now that they've kind of got a kick in the pants with all of this productivity that they're doing. But moving on down the road, this is another update from something we talked about last week. The Distillers are in fact doing a reunion tour. Tickets are on sale now. There's only 6 dates, the first of which is starting in April. So you've got a couple of months. I doubt they're going to sell out, but hopefully between now and then they're going to add some more dates, because right now they're basically just in California and then down in Texas, I believe. So yeah, there's that. I'm going to skip those and go to this guy. So Troye Sivan trying to keep up with the music you kids listen to, and I think I'm saying his name right. He was on SNL this past weekend doing the song My and The Good State, or The Good Side rather. When I saw the promos for this, I thought he might be a girl. Like, I know that's been said about, like, Justin Timberlake and stuff because they're just too pretty, but no, this dude was super androgynous. Not just effeminate, androgynous. But then, like, the music he makes, and I mock him because of his look, because I can. But the music he makes was intriguing. It wasn't necessarily good, but it wasn't bad either. Like a lot of modern pop music, a lot of pop music since the early aughts, anything that's basically come out since then has been super duper hit or miss, and mostly miss. But this kid, this is some new kid who's like 19, 20 years old, maybe a little bit older. Looks like he's 12 though, looks like a 12-year-old girl. Intriguing, kind of dark pop, but not so dark, not like Depeche Mode dark pop. It's still something that the kids can bite off and chew. And super duper over sexualized. The kid kept grabbing himself like he thought he was Michael Jackson on crack. But I was intrigued. Usually when it gets to the music artist, if I don't like them, I can go do, make myself some dinner, go give the dog a bath, whatever, when the musical guest is playing, if it's somebody I don't like. But this one kind of had me entranced, so very interesting. I have a little bit more hope for pop music, and we're going to get into a couple more reasons why here in just a second. The next bit is also pop music. Justin Timberlake put out another single off of his new record, Man in the Woods, of the Woods, something like that. The video is called Supplies, super freaking politically charged, annoying, but the track itself was better. Still not as good as Justin Timberlake can do, but it's definitely better than the other one that we talked about last week. It's very interesting because like there's this weird mumble rap bit in the song, and then it's also got shades of Beyonce in it, which was interesting, but still I don't see the correlation of the music that are in these two videos and his Tennessee roots. Like, I want some blues, I want maybe some country influence, but mumble rap? I don't think that's something that's designated to the South at all. At all. Like, I'm fairly certain mumble rap comes from large cities like New York and or LA, but I don't like mumble rap, so I couldn't tell you exactly where it originates from. I haven't done that homework. Yeah, I dig it. Like, it's still, Justin's just not flexing that vocal muscle in these two tracks. Like, a little bit more in Supplies, but still not like he can. He's not pushing himself, and that I think is a disservice to his fans. And then, yeah, this is the last bit. Oh man, we finally got to the end. The last bit is, again, another one I'm super excited for. For those of you that don't know, approximately round about the mid-90s, there was what was called a revival in music. Specifically a ska revival, or big band revival, I think is how they refer to it. But ska was included because you have big band elements in that genre. This band, the Squirrel Nut Zippers, was part of that new revival of big band music. That's when we got Aquabats, that's when we got Five Iron Frenzy, that's when we got, not Streetlight. Streetlight was closer to the aughts, I feel like. Streetlight was in the aughts, Streetlight Manifesto. But Real Big Fish, just all of these bands. Why can't I think of more of these bands? Brian Setzer Orchestra had a few hits. Brian Setzer's always going to have hits every decade. He's still physically capable of making music because the man is awesome. But the Squirrel Nut Zippers were part of this. They have the Damnation song that actually Streetlight Manifesto covers. So if you're big into Streetlight and the song, the D and the A and the M and the N and the A and the T and the I-O-N, they didn't write that song. The Squirrel Nut Zippers wrote that song, and they were really big with that single back in the mid to late 90s. But then we really haven't heard from them. It's been about 18 years since they put out any kind of music, and now they're working on a new record, and it's super cool. The name of the new record is Beasts of Burgundy. The song that I listened to while doing this is called Carnival Joe from Kokomo, and it's definitely, so it takes that ska kind of big band sound and it shifts it just a little bit, so it's more of a New Orleans kind of big band sound rather than a traditional jazzy kind of big band. This is more New Orleans, a southern sound, and it's great. It's great, and it's interesting because that's exactly what Jimbo Mathis, the band leader, was going for. All of the new members primarily got recruited around the New Orleans area, so that's the sound you get when you recruit New Orleans musicians. And they hit it off well. And his putting the band back together, or reforming the band, I guess, wasn't to make a new album. It was just because he wanted to play music again. He wanted to go on tour, whatever that meant. And then he got these players together and saw that they were hungry for it and they were really good at this art that they do, and said, you know what? Let's jump into a studio. And so they did. And we've got, I think it's like 12 tracks coming out of these guys. I'll include a link to the song, and whew, good stuff. Good stuff. But that is where I'm going to end this week's music episode. If you want to go deeper into the conversation, jump on over to the website, generallynerdy.net. You can get links to all the social medias over there. There's also some other freebies that you can get on the website. Or if you want to help continue this conversation, you want to contribute, then jump over to the Patreon, patreon.com/generallynerdy. You can get on for just $1 a month. That's just 100 pennies, and it goes incredibly far. But if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, or right above my head, click or tap that subscribe button, whichever. If you like the video, click the like button. If you need to catch up on your nerd news, you are falling behind, then right there to the left of my face, click or tap that box right there and you can catch up. But before you do, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.